So I'm just going to quickly show how to do Cox proportional hazard modeling in SAS. So the structure of survival data is basically you have some information there about how long people were followed. Covariates here we have treatment and sex, and this variable here, the third one, is status, and that's a variable that so we know this person was followed for 23 months, and status tells us what happens at that time that caused them to stop being followed. In this case, one means they had the event, whether that's death or whatever, and zero means they were right censor, they weren't followed anymore. People sometimes put censorship here instead, or the interpretation would be opposite, where it's censorship, so one would indicate censored, zero would indicate non-censored. And yeah, that's all the data we need. And I just made up this data. So when I did like a test run of this, I saw that treatment was causing hazard, and like I just made this data up, and I was too lazy to go back and change it, so I just switched the label. So now one is untreated and zero is treated, just so it looks cleaner when I actually show you the analysis. And yeah, zero female, one male. So let's read that in. And to do Cox proportional hazard, you do proc pH reg, data equals data, or whatever you named your data. And it has a lot of the same options as other regression, like GLM. But I'm going to start with the format statement, just because I like to, like when I format in the class statement, I like to use the name of the format instead of how I coded it. It's just, I find it looks cleaner. Um, so I have a sex format, and I also have a treatment format. Okay, so in the class statement, um, sex is a categorical variable, and I'm going to call female the referent, and for treatment, I'm going to call the referent untreated. Not sure if it cares whether um, untreated is capitalized or not, but just in case, I'm just going to capitalize it. And param equals rev. Okay, now we're ready for the model statement. So you start with telling SAS, so the outcome is survival, so once times status. And what you put here next to status is telling SAS what sensor data looks like, so you put 0. And then next, you just put what you want in the model, so in our case, sex and treatment. And I think that's everything you need to just get the bare minimum. Yeah, so here we have our beta values for the influence of sex and treatment on survival. It's kind of obscene here, like the ratio, hazard ratio here is really large for males, and treatment is fairly protective, and both of these are significant. And we have some fit statistics here. And unlike some of the other regression procs, that pH reg gives you the exponentiated, more interpretable hazard ratio instead of you having to actually request it. Some other things I just wanted to show you. I think by default the way it handles ties is this Breslow method, but you can ask for other ones. Also, if you want, does it give confidence intervals? But yeah, it doesn't give confidence intervals by default, so you can put RL in to get confidence intervals. And one last thing, one of the major assumptions for this type of regression Cox proportional hazard is the proportional hazard assumption. So you can ask SAS to run a test to test if that holds. No, what goes there? Resample, I think, is It gives you like an actual test with a null hypothesis, and that lets you kind of not have to eyeball it. Yeah, so now our hazard ratios have um, 95% confidence intervals, and don't worry about these. I think those are just simulations, and this is what's important is this is a test that's testing whether our proportional hazard assumption holds, and the null here is that it holds, so we have evidence here that it holds.